Greetings, everybody. That was Culprits, the legendary Culprits, Albuquerque Hardcore. Shout out to Garth, cutest red-haired Canadian boy I've ever met, personally. But yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about the Phoenix trip I had recently. I think at the end of this video I'm going to include the some of the stuff I picked up while I was in Phoenix, so you can see that later. Might as well talk about what I got from that. It was I stopped in at a local comic book store, which I mentioned is I believe they have. Oh, I have the bag right here. Actually, I might as well give you accurate information here. They're Samurai Comics. They have locations in Phoenix, Mesa, and Glendale, Arizona. So pretty it was a pretty cool place. I enjoyed it. They had a wide variety of stuff in there. There were some nerds playing Magic in there, from what I saw. There was an extensive collection of Gundam stuff in there, which I almost bought something from that section just because I've always wanted to collect Gundam stuff, but it's so expensive to collect Japanese imports, so that's why I never really got into that, because I've always been very poor, so that's an expensive hobby. But anyways, that Samurai Comics was a cool place. They had the Gundam section. Something that I almost bought, which I ended up barely resisting the urge, was they had a couple of Spawn, I believe it was Spawn 300 variant covers there, which I barely resisted buying just because they were a little bit out of my price range, just because I spent so much money on that trip, and it was, yeah, I didn't quite have the funds to justify that. I was just talking on Facebook about how I had, while I was in the airport waiting for the return flight, because I only was there for one day, but I was there for an entire day. I was there, I flew in at about 9 in the morning and didn't leave until I think it was 10 local time there. They're like an hour earlier, so I was there the whole day. But when I was in the airport, I was hungry and decided I should have ate before I got there, because I didn't realize how outlandish. I should have known, just because the prices of everything in airports is super high. I had bought even headphones that morning too, which were expensive, but I ate at Smash Burger, which I had never tried, and I got it was like a double Smash Burger, a strawberry shake, a large Sprite, which the large Sprite was not a large, it was a medium Sprite is what it was, but they call it large, and then a large fry. So I got those 4 things. That's 4, right? A double smash burger, strawberry shake, a very small fountain drink, and a large fry. So it's basically like a meal. Like at any fast food place, that's a meal basically, plus an extra thing, the shake. So you figure if you were to get that at like a McDonald's, say, or a Wendy's or something like that, what's that going to come out to? Like maybe 10 or 15 bucks at the most. But in an airport smash burger, those 4 items were like $23 or something like that. So that was a stupid waste of money. Shouldn't have done that. But yeah. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the Samurai Comics if you're ever in Phoenix, Mesa, or Glendale, Arizona. Another thing I was shocked by, because I've passed through Arizona on a number of occasions, and I used to go to summer camp there as a kid in a very small rural area. I think the camp was outside of a city called Payson, Arizona, if I remember correctly. But anyways, I was surprised by Phoenix, how spread out it is, and also like how many suburbs there are there. Like it seemed like everything is about a 30-minute drive there, like no matter what. Because I was there to take an admissions test for Oxford, and the school that the test was at was about a 30-minute drive from downtown Phoenix, and even the ride from the airport to downtown Phoenix was about probably a 10 or 15-minute drive. And I don't know, it's just weird in comparison to Albuquerque, because pretty much almost everything in Albuquerque, even suburbs, and like even if you're trying to go to Rio Rancho or like Bernalillo or one of those suburbs that's sort of more far away, it's usually only about a 30-minute drive. And then everything within Albuquerque is like a 10 or 15-minute drive. Even if you were to drive from Tramway all the way to 98th Street, even that wouldn't take 30 minutes. But everything in Phoenix is super spread out. So I was all over the city that day. I almost ended up going to Scottsdale, because my Uber driver, one of the several Uber drivers I took while I was there, was telling me that the school that I went to was closer to Scottsdale than it is to Phoenix. So I was like, well, maybe I should just do something there instead of like driving all around Phoenix, because I should have just like stayed in one area and not wasted so much money on Ubers and taxis, because I had taken a taxi from the airport to downtown Phoenix just because I had several hours to kill in between arriving there and the time that the actual test was. So I just decided to check out downtown, because I figured like downtown Phoenix has to be close to everything in Phoenix, right? Because that's how Albuquerque is. Like downtown Albuquerque, you can go anywhere in Albuquerque from there, and it won't take you very long. A 10-minute drive to pretty much anywhere in Albuquerque from there. But that's not how Phoenix is. All the places I needed to go were 30 minutes away from downtown Phoenix, so that was saddening. But anyways, that Uber driver said you should just go to Scottsdale because that's closer. But then I ended up looking on Google Maps, and Scottsdale was also 30 minutes away from the place that the guy told me was closer to Scottsdale than Phoenix. So it's like, well, it's not really closer to Phoenix if it's also 30 minutes. Everything's 30 minutes from each other, it seems. But what else did I do while I was there? Nothing too exciting. I tried a local barbecue place, which I forget the name of. I'll have to look that up or something, and maybe I'll put it in the description of the video. But it was really good, actually. I recommend that place. I'll have to find out what the fuck the name is so that I can put it in the description for all you Phoenix people or people who might be in Phoenix at some point. But yeah, well, I didn't really do anything else that cool. I wanted to take the I forget what it's called. It's like the Sky Car or something like that. I guess they have like a train that goes from the airport to downtown Phoenix or something. I should have just used that rather than taking the taxi, because it probably would have been cheaper. Because just the taxi ride from the airport to downtown Phoenix was $17, I believe. So that was a huge waste of money. I almost took the bus a couple of times, but I didn't want to get lost or end up going out of my way, so I just decided not to do that. But also the that Samurai Comics location that I went to in Phoenix, like, I wouldn't say it was like a sketchy area, but I don't know, like, it didn't seem like the type of area where you'd want to be lost on the bus. But yeah. Anything else that happened that was interesting? Really, the only other interesting thing that happened was while I was in the airport. I spent a lot of time in the airport that day just because, obviously, I was only there for that one day, so it was economical to at least spend some time in the airport. Although spending $23 at Smash Burger is not economical, so never do that. But I was eavesdropping on this guy, and not even actually really eavesdropping, just because he was kind of making a scene. But there was some guy there with his friend, and while I was sitting there, I might have sat there for maybe like an hour total, maybe even less than that, maybe like 45 minutes, because I had just finished eating my Smash Burger, overpriced Smash Burger meal. Then I was just sitting there, waiting to go through security, because it does take a while to get through security in an airport, I found out, because I hadn't flown prior to this since before 9/11, so it's way different than what I remember. But anyways, while I was eavesdropping on that guy / just watching his antics, he was clearly mentally disturbed, and his friend that he was with was like slightly more of a normal person, but even that guy was also very weird. But he carried on a phone conversation with about, I don't know if it was the same person or 5 or 6 different people, but he was on the phone that whole time that I sat there, which, like I said, was probably maybe an hour. So he was on the phone with different people pretty much that whole time, and also carrying on a conversation with his friend that was sitting next to him. And I don't know if he was drunk, like, it was hard to tell, just because, like, his whatever mental issues he had were sort of like drunkenness, but it was hard to tell, because he even said on one of the phone conversations that he was on meds, and it's like, well, yeah, obviously you would have to be on meds because you're psychotic. But it was just very weird, because he kept like falling down, and like he kept going up to the counter of it was in sort of like the food court area of the Phoenix airport, and the restaurant next door was is it Sunflower Bread Company? Is that what it's called? It's something flour, I don't know, but regardless, he kept going up to the counter of that place and asking for refills for him and his friend, and he had gotten into like sort of not really an argument with the guy he was with, but they were playing keep away from each other with their drinks, and like to the point where the people at the Sunflower Bread Company, or whatever it's called, had to intervene several times. And like, I don't know, it was just very strange. It wasn't what I was expecting at an airport, just because usually a scene like that, those people would get thrown out of the airport immediately. But it's unclear, like they obviously knew the employees there. The employees knew them and were friendly enough to them to where no one called security. But I was tempted to call security myself, because they were causing a scene, and it's just very weird seeing that in an airport, just because with the mental state that guy was in, who knows what he's capable of, because I don't know, he was just acting very weird. But anyways, oh, I was also surprised that on one of his phone calls he mentioned that he works at is it Grand Canyon University? Yeah, I think it was Grand Canyon University. So I was like, wow, this guy actually can hold down a job. That's impressive because the way he was acting, it doesn't seem like he'd be able to carry out the duties of any job or care for himself. Which is why it was just weird that him and the other guy were even like in public alone. It seemed like with how strange they were that they should have had some sort of guardian or like caretaker to watch after them because they were just mentally unsound to take care of themselves, in my opinion. But I'm not a doctor, so yes, it's not for me to say. But on that note, people watching in general at airports is very fun because there's so many like different types of people that go through airports. And another thing that happened while I was there in the airport was there was a bunch of returning veterans because I guess they had gone to some sort of memorial service or something like that at the Washington Memorial in D.C. and they had a connecting flight in Phoenix because I guess they were flying back to California, so they had a big ceremony of where we basically cheered for them as they went from the gate of their flight they were returning on to the gate that they had to connect to catch their connecting flight to California or whatever. So, but what was cool is they were veterans of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So a lot of them were very old dudes, and they were the last ones out of the plane just because most of them were in wheelchairs. There were even a couple women veterans there, which was cool. But yeah, it was cool to see just because you don't get to see veterans from those wars very often because, like I said, they're all pretty elderly at this point. My Uncle Freddie was actually a Vietnam vet, and also my Uncle Bill as well was a gunner in Vietnam. So I have a few family members that participated in those wars. But yeah, that was cool that was happening while I was there, just because I got to see some veterans that probably won't be with us for much longer because they were veterans of what I would refer to as quote unquote real wars, whereas the wars of today are kind of laughable in comparison to those wars, just because there were actual like ideological like reasons for those wars, which I don't think there's really ever any justification for war. But when it comes to World War II and like Vietnam, like there was actually sort of a legitimate reason, you could say, almost, for those wars, just because like you gotta stop the Nazis. And Vietnam was sort of a different story. I don't think we should have ever been in Vietnam in the first place, but yeah, just crazy to see those veterans, and just crazy that those wars happened in our country's history not that long ago. It's wild. But yeah. Anything else interesting that happened while I was in Phoenix? The flight itself was pretty crazy because I was expecting to get on one of those like huge jumbo jets or whatever, because my flight was through American Airlines, but the planes that we went on for the flight there and the return flight were these very small aircraft that I never even knew like they had those for regular like passenger flights, because those planes probably only could fit like, I don't know, like maybe like 50 people at the most, something like that. So yeah, it was really odd. I wasn't expecting to be on that kind of plane. But something that was crazy is it had been like 20 years since I had been on a plane, so I don't know if this is true or not, but those small planes, you could really feel the turbulence like a lot more than you would if it was like a jumbo jet. Like Also, the takeoff and landings were pretty intense as well. But I don't know. I just really don't like flying that much, just because I get motion sickness pretty easily. Like I wasn't really sick like on the flight. Like it was fine. It was just I don't know. I wasn't really mentally prepared, I guess, for how intense it was. But I enjoyed the flights actually. Like coming back into Albuquerque, since it was so late, you could see like the whole city lights from up there. But that was pretty cool. But yeah. What else? Pretty much just randomly decided to film this because I wanted to show off some of the stuff I had gotten recently anyway. So, oh yeah, I might as well talk about the actual test itself, just because that was an interesting experience. So the test I was taking, they're administered. The tests themselves are administered by Cambridge, but the tests they offer, they're either for entrance into Cambridge or Oxford. So there were students there that were trying to get into one or the other, or just into either one. But it was also interesting because there were, I want to say, maybe like 10 or 15 of us, and almost everyone was taking a different test. Like there were some kids taking physics test, there was a math test, history, and a few other subjects. I think one of them was like something weird like bioengineering or biotech or something weird like that. But there's like I think 2 other people that were taking the test that I was taking, which is the English literature admissions test. But it's a really odd test for the English portion, just because it's not like multiple choice or anything. You have to write an essay, and the format of the test is there are 5 pieces of writing, and you pick 2 of them and compare them in any way you see interesting, is what the test said. So anything that's interesting to you, you can compare those 2 pieces of writing out of the 5 to choose from. So there was like a fiction piece, a poem, a letter, what were the other ones? A poem, a letter, a piece from fiction. Oh, the other one was from a memoir. And then, what was the last one? I wish I could remember. There might have been 2 poems. I don't know. It's not important, but what's crazy is the grading process for this test, because they have 2 different people read the essay that you wrote, comparing these 2 pieces of writing, and then they each assign you a score from 0 to 30, and then they combine those 2 scores to give you a score out of 60. So, and supposedly the people who grade the test aren't actually associated with Cambridge or Oxford. They're just some external grading people that they choose. I don't know if they curate the people that they have grade these tests, but I thought that was interesting. And then I guess if there's not a clear consensus between those 2 people that grade it, they actually bring in a 3rd person to assign you a score, and then they give you the 2 closest scores out of those 3. And I don't think it mentioned this, but I don't know if they just keep getting additional people to score until you get a consistent score, because it seems like there could be a possibility to where one person scores you very high and another person scores you very low. So I wonder if they just keep giving your paper to different people until you get a consistent score, because that'd be weird. But also, it would sort of make sense, like if they're trying to give you a consistent grade, and one person gives you a 30 out of 30 and the other person gives you a 2 out of 30, like that'd be very weird and it wouldn't really make sense. So it's cool that they do it that way. It also seems kind of arbitrary though, like it's just some random person who isn't even associated with the university is evaluating you on a piece of writing that you've had 90 minutes to write. And the prompt was, compare these in any way that seems interesting to you. So it's all very vague on what they expect from this piece of writing, which I guess is intentional. They want to see how you can write given very little direction. It seems like we're not going to give you really any direction on how you should write this piece. We're just going to give you some literature to analyze, and analyze it however you want. But I don't know. We'll see how I do on that. The results aren't even going to be published until January, and I guess the university posts the results online, so I'll have to go online in January to see how I did on the test, which it's a very long time to wait, but hopefully it's worth the wait and actually get accepted. But yeah, wish me luck on that, I guess. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that happened in Phoenix. My Uber drivers were very interesting people, and my taxi driver. The taxi driver didn't know English too well. It was very hard to understand him, but we did actually carry on in like a decent conversation, despite the fact that there was a very obvious language barrier. But one of the other guys actually said he lived in New Mexico as a kid, because he asked me where I was from or whatever, and he said he lived in a very small border town, somewhere near El Paso or something, on the New Mexico border. So he told me a very funny story, like about his dad and like how much of a womanizer his dad is and stuff. So that was pretty funny. He was like an older guy, but I enjoyed that conversation. And then one of my other Uber drivers was I wouldn't really call him a cholo, but he was a bro, I guess you could say. Because I was trying to I asked pretty much all of my Uber drivers and the taxi driver, like, can you recommend something for me to do? Because I have like 12 hours to kill while I'm here, so can you recommend anything cool to do? And really none of them like had any good suggestions. Like that bro guy was like, you should go watch a movie or whatever, and I was asking for like cool restaurants to try, and he recommended that I go to Dave & Buster's. I was like, Dave & Buster's is whack, dog. I could go to that in any city. Like I want something like that's unique to Phoenix. But yeah, I didn't really have any cool stuff to check out. But I did see like a few cool things while I was there, like that comic book shop and the barbecue place. I actually wanted to go into the place that was next door to the barbecue place, which was I don't know if it was some sort of art gallery or something like that, but it had a cool thing where it was an art vending machine where you could like buy prints out of this vending machine. So I actually should have gone in there, but I was too busy stuffing my face full of barbecue to do that. But I definitely want to go back to Phoenix when I have more time to explore, rather than just going there for academic reasons. But yeah, it was a cool experience. I was happy that the weather was nice while I was out there. It was only like 50 degrees, so that was nice instead of being sweltering like I expected it to be. But I guess it's good that I went there around this time of year where it's not super hot. But yeah, anything else cool? I was kind of trying to explore that area that the guy dropped me in because I was like, yeah, I want to go to downtown Phoenix, but like, can you recommend anything in the area that's like cool to do or like any cool restaurants? He's like, I don't know. There was just too much of a language barrier with that guy where he didn't seem to grasp what I was asking him. But there were like a few restaurants in the area that he took me to. Like, I told him to take me someplace where there's a lot of like restaurants within walking distance, and the area he took me to like didn't actually seem like the best area to, if that's what you're wanting to do, because there's like a lot of construction going on in Phoenix right now, and like especially in the downtown area it seems. And yeah, the area that he took me to just wasn't good. It was all like full of construction, and like there were like one or two restaurants in the block that he dropped me on, but nothing really like amazing. I'm lucky I found that barbecue place, to be honest, because he seemed like real like, I don't know, like he seemed sincere that he was taking me to a place that had a lot of restaurants, but there really weren't. Like, I don't know how long he had been in Phoenix for, or if he even goes outside, or if he just, the only time he goes outside is for his job. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of weird, just because like, take me somewhere where there's a lot of restaurants, and then there's only like one restaurant on that entire block within like a 5 mile radius. There's only one restaurant. But that's cool. Yeah, that's about it, I think. Stay tuned for the rest of the video where I show off some of the specific things that I got while I was there. But that's about it. I do want to eventually show off my entire comic book collection, but I think it's going to need to be a 3 or 4 part video, just because I have a lot of comics and I don't really want to rush through it or anything. So 3 or 4 parts sounds about right for the amount of comics that I have. But yeah, I think that's everything. Until next time, everybody, stay gold. Bye-bye. Greetings, everybody. It's Noel, the list. Just wanted to go over some recent acquisitions. I was recently in Phoenix for an academic trip, but while I was there, I picked up a few things, and picked up some other stuff recently that I also wanted to go through, and possibly also just talk a little bit about the Phoenix trip in general, just to fill you all in on what I've been doing. But first thing I wanted to show off was this set that I've had since I was a kid. It's I had forgotten I even had this because it's kind of been in storage, but since I recently started collecting coins again, I thought it was worth showing off. It has obviously a few different things. It has this 1897 V nickel, which is in like decent shape. It's a little bit slicked out, but it's not in horrible shape. And then there's like a few of these like I want to say they're like Civil War era bullets. Someone who knows more about history can correct me on that, on what the exact era those are from. But it also has this this button, which is U.S. Indian Service button. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the last thing in here is this very tiny coin. It's a token, I believe. See if I can get it to even show up on camera. I think that side is like super worn. Let me see if I can flip it over real quick. This one is the New Mexico Bureau of Revenue. It's I believe it's a tax token is what it is, which I don't even know what that is all about, but the date on it is 1935, I want to say. So that's pretty cool. Just some, I guess it's supposed to be like a New Mexico history thing. Who knows whether these bullets were actually found here in New Mexico or not, but that's pretty cool. Also, while I was in Phoenix, I checked out a local, I guess it's like a comic book chain store, because I believe they have locations in Mesa, Phoenix, and I want to say Tucson maybe. But the things I picked up there were this Youngblood #1, which I've been wanting to get since it came out. It took me a little while to get it. It's been out since 2017. I finally got that. And then I also picked up this trade paperback of Major X. So pretty much I'm trying to collect everything drawn or written by Liefeld. And so just more progress along that route. I went and played Magic on Friday night at my local game store, Twin Suns, and I picked this up. It's Violator versus Badrock, another Liefeld book. But this one is cool because it's a crossover between Spawn and Youngblood. I just love Liefeld's ridiculous artwork. Those muscles, though. Also, someone asked me, like, because I was discussing it with someone at Twin Suns, and he wasn't a big comic book person, but he's like, is Badrock holding his head? Like, is that a severed head? And I really didn't know the answer to that, because they're both sort of facing the camera there, so it's like hard to tell what's going on, because it's supposed to be Violator versus Badrock. I believe they fight in this comic, so they're obviously not fighting here. It's hard to tell what's going on there. Is he holding up Violator's severed head? Or what's happening there? It's kind of the question you run into with a lot of Liefeld's artwork is, what the fuck's happening? But I don't care about Liefeld's shortcomings. I just love the way he draws, and the extreme comics of the 90s where everyone had to have tin belts, pouches, strings of bullets, and other accessories. Love it. Anyways, those are my recent comic book pickups, and I also recently picked up this. It's a collection that I bought from a guy on, I want to say Craigslist, or it might have been the Let Go app. I don't know. It was one of those. Or maybe even the Facebook Marketplace. I use all three of those pretty often, so it could have been from any of those, but that's where I got this. I picked up a collection. There's a shitload of trading cards in this collection. It's it's quite extensive, but I'll flip through it real quick just because it would take forever to go through this like piece by piece. But this first page is these verses cards. Um, they're supposed to like depict, I guess, like classic matchups. Like you have Spider-Man versus J. Jonah Jameson, Fantastic Four versus Doctor Doom, X-Men versus Magneto, Daredevil versus Kingpin, Silver Surfer versus Mephisto, which I thought that one was interesting because I didn't actually know that Mephisto was typically fighting the Silver Surfer too often, but that's cool. And there's Thor versus Hulk. Or not, that's not Hulk, that's Ulik. And then Hulk versus Leader. Iron Man versus Mandarin. So that's cool. Next page here's more versus stuff. Captain America versus Red Skull, Daredevil versus Punisher, X-Men versus Marauders. I don't know who the Marauders are, but Silver Surfer versus Thanos. That's a cool one. Avengers versus Ultron, Nick Fury versus Baron Strucker, Doctor Strange versus Baron Mordo. Got two Barons there. There's a lot of Barons in Marvel, apparently. Ghost Rider versus Deathwatch, Spider-Man versus Lizard, more of these verses. There's even entire teams versus someone. X Factor versus Apocalypse, Punisher versus Kingpin, Thing versus Hulk. I don't want to go through every single one just because it would take forever, but here's some more from that same sort of series. This is from 1991, a supervillain series, so you got some classic Marvel supervillains there. Love those. Even more versus King the Conqueror is one of the more interesting Marvel characters. He has quite the backstory there. Wait, so there's Baron Zemo here. Baron Zemo, Baron Strucker, and Baron Mordo. So I wasn't lying when I said there's a lot of Barons in Marvel. That's pretty funny, actually. Rhino, Absorbing Man, more villains. Doc Ock, Nebula. Got King the Conqueror again. Deathwatch. Puma. Shout out to Puma. Baron Mordo again. Yeah, there's just a lot of these. Like I can't spend too much time going through each and every single character just because there's so many. I miss the 90s. Obviously, I miss the 90s. Everything I collect or love is in some way related to the 90s. There's a lot of Marvel characters that have yet to be depicted in the cinematic universe or just on screen at all. Adam Warlock being one of them. Wonder Man being another. We have seen Banshee, which is cool. U.S. agent's a hilarious, kind of a lazy character. Like, it's just like another version of Captain America, basically. Lazy writing there. Sable, Union Jack, Havoc. Havoc's another one that has gotten some screen time, but it would be cool to see more screen time for him. Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch. Yeah, there's just a lot of these, like this. There's probably a good, like, I don't know, 30 or 40 pages in this collection that I bought. What was kind of funny is he just gave me the pages themselves. They weren't in a binder, so I had to throw them into this binder. Luckily, I had a binder lying around to put them in. Yep. Pretty cool collection. I picked it up for pretty cheap, so I'm happy with it. Thunderstrike's one of my favorite characters from the 90s. It's pretty much the 90s edgy version of Thor. Like, he wears like this silly like leather jacket vest thing, and he has a mace instead of a hammer. I love that. Yeah. Beta Ray Bill, my boy. Captain Britain. Would have been funny if they would have portrayed Captain Britain with horrible teeth, just to indulge some British stereotypes there. Good stuff. The 90s was the best decade, am I right? Got my boy Deadpool there. I like that card. He has the gigantic sword. I was hoping there would be some Liefeld art in here, but I didn't spot any. All the Liefeld characters were drawn by someone else, like this guy. I want to say, is that Dusko? Let's see what this guy's actual name is so I can credit him for... He does a good job of drawing these characters, but... let's see if I can read this through the camera lens here. This even says art by Rob Liefeld on the back, but... This is Liefeld art on the back of the card, but the front of the card is by someone else, whose name I'm not seeing credited here, which is unfortunate, but... And then you got Domino. Puma again. Shout out to Phil. Omega Red's another of my favorite villains. He's pretty sweet. That artwork looks hilarious for some reason. Cyber. It looks like a fat Batman with metal arms. Another sweet Adam Warlock there. Colossus, another one of my favorites. Magneto. We had these 2099. I don't know how many like of the 2099 versions of characters there were, but there were several. Shit went wrong in 2099 by the looks of these. Something went horribly wrong. Forge. Spider-Woman. My dog Blade. I'm surprised this isn't a franchise that they have tried to reboot as of yet. Wesley Snipes did a really good job with that role, though, so it's going to be hard to live up to that. But, yeah.
Speaking of all these Iron Fist cards, it's cool that they brought back the Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi Iron Fist comic was one of the first ever comics that I bought. I'm going to move this just because the position that I'm in is extremely uncomfortable. It's hurting my back. Alright, let's continue looking at these. Let me actually pause this real quick. Alright, we're back. Oh, there's a horrible glare. There we go. Psylocke's one of the coolest characters. As far as the X-Men are concerned. I wonder who did this art, because I really like that. Let's see if we could find it. Art by Davis / Neary? Is that what that says? Davis and Neary. Unclear if it's referring to this art here or the art in the front, because that other one was not, didn't credit the person who did the art on the front. I wonder if they signed it. Oh, they did. See if I can read that. It's very small. I'm gonna look at it off the camera real quick because I'm gonna have to really get close here. That looks like it says Jose 93. I'm gonna have to research that because I like that artwork. My dog Cable. Another one that's not drawn by Liefeld, but still looks pretty cool, I guess. I really like this Thor one here. He's like super buff and yelling, drawn by somebody by the name of Harrison. Let's see what that one says on the back. Art by Jack Kirby and, does that say Shinobi? Can't read that. I don't know. But it'd be cool if they credited the person who drew the art that's actually on the card, but they're always crediting the other art that's just thrown there on the back, which is weird. Anyways, moving on. Here's some teams, and there's these other. These cards are interesting because it has like power ratings. Meta-human. More human than a human. X-Force. My dog's right there. That one looks like it actually is drawn by Rob. Nope, it's not. It's drawn by somebody named Morgan. They almost fooled me there. Let's see what the back of that one says. X-Force. Headquarters unknown. Interesting. There's these cards that depict various items and weapons of the characters. You got Daredevil's Billy Club, which looks hilarious in this picture because it's like, I don't know, it looks like more of a toy than a weapon. Punisher's Arsenal. Quasar's Quantum Bands. The Infinity Gauntlet. Spider-Man's Web Shooters. I don't know, like, who thought that was, like, a cool idea to, like, depict weapons and items on cards, but it's kind of lame, honestly, like, I hate to say it, but that's a stupid idea. It's kind of funny, honestly, but I don't know. For some of them, like, it's interesting, like, the Infinity Gauntlet's a pretty interesting item, like, I could see that being its own card, but just like shit like Iron Man's armor, it's like, does that really justify a card? Like, Iron Man's armor is kind of what makes him like interesting. Like, without the armor, he'd just be a regular dude. So I don't know, just having it on its own card is weird to me. But somebody at Marvel thought it was a good idea. Just because like there's not much room to really discuss these items. Like, the history of the Infinity Gauntlet is so like complex and convoluted that like, are you really going to be able to fit anything about it on a tiny ass little card? All knowledge concerning the Infinity Gauntlet is based on hearsay, with the collection and installation of the 6 soul gems to the gauntlet complete. Whoever wears it attains infinite power over the universe. The soul gems' identities are from the small finger to thumb, plus back of hand, mind, space, time, reality, power, soul. Like, there's so much like cool shit they could have said about the Infinity Gauntlet, and they blew it. Like, I don't know if like they could have like dedicated the entire back of the card to pure text, and it would have been cooler, like, to actually learn the real history of these items instead of just like 2 or 3 sentences. Like, there's so much backstory to Thor's hammer, and all they put here was Odin conferred some enchantments on the hammer. Cool. Yeah, they blew it on that. Anyways. Like, here's another one, Mandarin's rings. Like, so much cool shit can be said about those, but I'm sure there's still only 1 or 2 sentences here that go into it. This one like sort of has like some info about it, but still, like, they could have had all text on the back, not these stupid, like, they're almost like schematic drawings. Like, I don't know, it's just odd. Anyways. Some of the depictions of these characters are so different from how they look in the cinematic universe. Like, you got Drax right there. Hilarious. I like the art on this one. Terrax. Got another 2099 here. Vulture 2099. 2099 is really a despicable wasteland of crime and villainy, it seems. Here's even more versus cards. This one's all Wolverine though, so that's cool. Oh, I forgot they even have, this guy even he doubled up some of the cards, so on the back of some of these there are even more cards. I think that's the first one that I almost missed, because he doubled up some of the pages, which I'm gonna have to probably go back in and take them out and put them into their own sleeves, just so that they're not falling out or anything. I love these Wolverine versus cards though, just because over the years Wolverine's had so many like interesting like fights and enemies, so these are pretty cool. That glare is horrible though. Wolverine versus Cable. Got these X-Men Gold team and the blue team. Love the X-Force once again. Pretty much one of my favorite superhero teams, just because it's drawn by my dog Rob. He's my favorite. Some more. I especially like the wedding of Cyclops and Jean Grey. Because it's so cheesy looking. Got more supervillain cards. I like how buff Spiral looks in this. Every single arm is buff. Silver Samurai. That's gotta be one of the funnier names for a villain. Sincere. Just the way they spelled it is so fucking 90s and heavy metal. Sincere. He's full of sin and he'll sear you. Apparently. My dog Shatterstar. Those sword things that Shatterstar wields are the stupidest looking weapon ever. It's like it's like a sword, but it also has like these hand guards that are hilarious looking that have spikes on them. It's just so 90s right there. With the silly like boxing headgear and like just Liefeld's, the way he designed his characters is hilarious. Domino again. Cable. They really should have spent more money on having like really good artists of the time draw some of these, like just because they could have came out a lot better if you actually like commissioned the people that were like known for drawing these characters instead of just, it seems like they just got a bunch of random people to like do you guys want to draw a trading card? I mean, a lot of them did come out cool. It's just it feels like some of them were sort of missed opportunities to have like the iconic artists for that character. Like you could have had like Jim Lee draw like all the X-Men and like, you know, people that were known for drawing these characters instead of just randos. Which all respect and credit to the artists that did draw these, because like I said, most of them did come out good. It's just there were a few that were sort of duds. Which it's hard to even have this kind of art on a trading card, which is maybe one of the reasons why they don't make these anymore, or maybe they do, but they don't sell as well as they used to. Just because comic book characters are very like detailed, and you kind of want them on a larger format than a tiny little card, but they tried to make it work, and in many cases it did work, but yeah, there's a lot of these that I could spend a lot more time flipping through slowly, but I think we're sort of reaching the point of redundancy here. This guy really must have loved Spider-Man, because Spider-Man were the by far the most prevalent ones. I will show these ones off. These are cool just because they all make one like huge picture, which is a really cool idea that they actually should have done more than they did, because just sweet. Some of the I actually had some of the ones that form a picture in my other video where I show some of my trading cards, if you want to check that out. But yeah, they should have done that more with these ones that form a cohesive picture when you collect them all. But yeah, that's what I picked up recently, and I think I'm gonna cut the video here to I'm gonna jump over to my actual webcam so that you guys can see my pretty face while I talk about the rest of the Phoenix trip.